cuisine there, very hearty looking French toasted breakfast. Actually, my panel here is salivating. We hope to get a few pieces of that after this. Joy, if you can hear us. Anyway, we go back to our news review. Remember, I have with me Senator Matangi, Senator Boni Halwale, Senator Beatrice Elachi, and Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. Earlier on, we were looking at the issue of the tax move by the government, and I have just been duly advised by the legal counsel that I have to give Senator Boni Halwale a right of reply. Senator, you have 30 seconds before we move on.
I think what we should be disturbing as a panel is the effort taken by government. What is it targeting? We want to create comfort amongst Kenyans so that they are comfortable on a day-to-day basis, when they go to sleep, when they wake up, when they eat, when they take their children to school, and so on. So if the intention is to make them comfortable, there is no point of telling them I've added you more money in the pocket when they walk to the kiosk or the supermarket, what that money buys is nothing. A packet of flour is 170 shillings, something that should have been going at 60 bob. So is bus fare, so is sugar. So this complex issue of taxation, if the government is really attempting to make Kenyans comfortable, should be accompanied by making the cost of living affordable.
Thank you very much. We now turn on to the story that is leading on the Business Daily. State House official approved 400 million shillings payment to Afya House contractors. This is in relation to the 5 billion shilling payment at Ministry of Health that has raised quite a lot of hue and cry, and which the government has come out very strongly to defend. Now, Joseph Kinyua, State House Chief of Staff, is said to have approved the payment of 400 million shillings to 2 different companies, one of them for consultancy at the inception of work at Nanyuki County Hospital. This is coming at a time when we have issues of audit reports, governors saying the IFMIS process is not right and it's being used to swindle money. We are seeing politics rearing its head into the fight against corruption. What is happening now between Mheshimiwa Raila's faction and Mheshimiwa Aden Duale and the rest? I start with you, Senator Beatrice Elachi.
It's a very confusing story. Nanyuki County Hospital.
200 million to pay for consultancy and inception works at Nanyuki County Hospital. This is according to updated internal audit report dated 18th November 2016.
No, this is an audit report that I think even needs to come now to the Senate, because first of all, if the money is for the county, health is devolved. My question will be, why Kinyua? I would wish to read the report, because there's a lot in it that somebody needs to understand.
For your consumption, it further goes on to say that a further 100 million shillings each was given to Bungoma and Lamu County hospitals to find their upgrade.
Well, it's a very... Wow, being even in the finance committee, then it juggles my mind more, because the counties have never come even to complain about, because first, it is none of their function. And these are some of the things that we are telling
these are actually not
in our offices.
Teaching hospitals.
Well, it does not matter. First, health is devolved. And therefore, even for you to refer 100 million, there is an MOU that they will need to sign, both of them, to say this money is coming from the national government to do this on health. If the governor will feel, yes, we can work together after those consultations, he will agree. If he refuses, it becomes a big issue, and I believe the senator also has to be in.
That's
so for me,
yes,
I would wish to read the report.
Yes. I think the problem is that Jubilee, when they attempted to now kick off devolution, they failed at a key area. When health was fully devolved, the national government needed to align the entire ministry with the structure of devolution, so that all these functions which Kinyua is now wading in and others would be wholly in the hands of governors. Macharia failed on this And Macharia should no longer be a minister in this, a cabinet secretary in this government, because that should have been his primary concern. There are billions of shillings that today sit at the head office in Afya House, which, because Macharia failed to align
to the counties
within
the devolved system.
Yeah, it has become attractive. Look, somebody like Kinyua, what has he got to do with health? It should not be lost on Kenyans that when he took that money to Nanyuki County Hospital, which is not a bad thing, it went to a hospital. But what was the money going to do? Consultancy. So gangsters from Nairobi pretended and went to Nanyuki and said that they are consultants on jiggers, they are consultants on AIDS and what have you, and then they
you seem to know much more about it.
He's a doctor. I'm a doctor of medicine, which brings me to my final comment on this one. What do we say as doctors? Doctors believe when you see pus somewhere, anywhere in the body, it means there is pus everywhere in the body. Pus somewhere is pus everywhere. And the doctor will quickly strike by making sure that you incise that area of pus, drain it out, put on strong antibiotics so that those antibiotics can run through the whole body to clear the pus. So, when you see the pus called corruption in the Ministry of Health, it means that pus called corruption is in all the departments of government. And because President Uhuru has admitted to Kenyans that there isn't anything more he can do, the guy has signed off the presidency. It means he is not capable, he is unable to incise the abscess so as to remove the pus called
as an individual, because there are, he says there are institutions that are mandated to do this.
Yes, it is not a laughing matter that Kinyua of all people, one of the most experienced civil, in fact, I think he's the most experienced civil servant in the Jubilee government today, to have made such an illegal directive calls for the question as to how high corruption has been.
The legality or otherwise of this directive may be established in the report, which was actually tabled in Parliament on Tuesday this week, that is 2 days ago.
And that's why
it says the directives were communicated to the ministry by the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, vide letter number reference OP/CAB 26/1/3A dated 24th January 2016. Senator Wamatangi.
You know, I'm a bit also surprised, especially with the wording. It's the wording it's not a surprise that money would be going to counties or to hospitals, even to the ministry for that matter. Every ministry has got a budget, including parliament and every department. But it's the wording. First, you know, every ministry has got a structure, and approvals for funding and release of funds follow a certain procedure, and there are individuals who are mandated to authorize payments. So the first thing one would want to find out is when it is said that Kinyua authorized the payments, he authorized as who at that particular time? You know, at what stage? Because in that structure there is nowhere
where
in a ministry he's aligned to give approvals for expenditure. So I hope it's a correct report. That's what I'm saying. I hope it's not an erroneous one.
Are you casting aspersions on an audit report?
I mean, all the time. And this is what we say ourselves. I'm a member of the Public Accounts Committee. So is Senator Boni Halwale. When queries come, our statement is always one, that the queries are never conclusive. They only brought to Parliament for purpose of fact and information gathering. And then some you dismiss, some you enrich, some you confirm. And so that's what I'm saying. I hope the information is accurate. But having said that, we also need to frankly say that I know it has been the position of the Jubilee government, and especially because that says that it was in the Afya House money.
Part of the 5 billion shillings that is being traced.
We've said it very clearly that there is no corrupt individual at all in any place, whether in that ministry or any other, who will survive. They won't. As long as you've been caught, you've been known, it's established through a credible, legal, proper system that this man is guilty. Doesn't matter what your name is, first or last. Doesn't matter what community you come from. It doesn't matter which family backs you. You are going to face it. But this let me make this quick remark, because we are on that particular issue of corruption.
And we are going to dwell on it for quite a while.
Yes. You see, but when we are talking about corruption, one thing we also have to do is we have to be honest when you're fighting it. Corruption. If you don't become honest and make that the key virtue when you're fighting this, you're wasting time. And you know, the biggest problem, I have said this numerously in this country that we have, is because, one, I have a very big problem when the crusaders, the frontliners of fighting corruption are politicians.
Politicizing corruption.
Because there's no other group of people who know better how to speak from both ends of the mouth at the same time.
Talking about politics, you know, and fight against corruption, Senator, I'll give you a chance, but I would wish to request my director, if you have the clip about Raila Odinga yesterday in Kilifi and about the response by the Jubilee team at in Parliament. I don't know if you have it so that we play it. We see how the fight against corruption has been politicized.
The opposition chief had rushed to the defense of Kilifi Governor Amason Kingi, who has been on the spotlight over the theft of 51 million shillings from the county's accounts. Odinga hailing Kingi as the whistleblower who should be emulated by the national government.
Na tunasema hii mfano ambayo imeonyeshwa na serikali ya Kilifi yafaa yaigwe na serikali ya kitaifa. Manaka kule kila mara tukigundua wizi na tukipiga firimbi ati hapa kuna mwizi, badala ya wao kuanza uchunguzi, kila mara wanaanza kulaumu yule ambaye amepiga firimbi ati yeye ana wivu.
But his defense of the embattled Kilifi governor has sparked fury from Jubilee lawmakers and ODM rebel members of parliament from the county.
We want to know the position of Raila. You know, he has become a pendulum. He's here, he's there, he's here, so we want to see which side of the pendulum do we find him.
Over 1.2 billion shillings on ECDs cannot be accounted for. The budget for 273 ECDs, only 70 are built, and the money is not there. And you are telling us there's no theft in Kilifi County.
The Auditor General has flagged several counties' expenditures, with billions of shillings suspected to have been misused. Jubilee members of parliament accusing Odinga of condemning alleged graft in the national government, while turning a blind eye on court governors' theft.
The propaganda being spread right now, the directed as court, because it's basically being directed as ODM, it's not being objective. And they are quiet, yet they know that other counties, even Kiambu, lost money through this kind of fraud, and other counties which are led by Jubilee.
And this is the reason why Raila had to run to Kilifi today, because Raila receives monthly stipend from all the ODM counties. They pay for his local and foreign trips. They pay for his choppers. They pay for his accommodation. They pay for his all rallies.
Odinga, while defending the court counties against allegations of corruption, suggested the Auditor General's report was premature.
What we want is not you should not be told about audit queries which auditor has raised. We want to talk about a published auditor's report, which will then conclusively confirm that yes, money was lost, and so much amount had been lost, and this way or that other way. This is the right way to go about it.
It is immensely difficult to believe that it is the same Odinga who has gone hammer and tongues against the government institutions on the basis of draft interim audit reports.
The Jubilee members of parliament have threatened to spill more beans on Odinga's alleged doublespeak in the war against graft. That billions of shillings meant to initiate developments for the common Mwananchi in both the national and county governments have ended up in the pockets of a few operatives is not in doubt. However, with politics taking center stage, the fight against graft is slowly turning into a face-off between politicians as the general election draws closer. Francis Gashuri, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Francis Gashuri, with that report that just seems to put on spotlight what Senator Wamatangi was saying, mixing politics with the fight against corruption. What's your take legally on this issue about an audit queries, auditor's report, and all this kind of thing?
Perhaps you allow me the right of response in terms of, start with this one. First, there is something called a clawback. And the three of us, Senator Halole, Elijah, and myself, sit in the Finance Committee of the Senate. And we know that from the division of revenue that we do, national government, national funds are supposed to fund what we call level 5 hospitals, and there are 13 of them. And they receive up to a sum of 4 billion shillings. Now it was 3.64 billion shillings. Now, when somebody sitting in an office that is not in the Ministry of Health directs a person to pay, you must ask yourself, why is the person who was directed still in office? As we speak today, Muraguri is still in office. Yet cabinet secretaries whose cases had never been investigated had been fired and have gone home, and their cases have never commenced. Some of them whom, in fact, their cases were never there in the first place. It's called doublespeak. Two, we have stated as follows, and the Jubilee government has taken pride in saying that we have devolved the health function up to 93%, but they have not followed the funds. But the converse is that that committee of health that UNC have been squabbling, trying to remove the chair, have increased tremendously the health budget every year since 2013. So it has provided an opportunity.
Although it still doesn't meet the threshold.
It doesn't meet the threshold. So it has provided an opportunity for what Halwale is talking about, consultancy on jiggers, so that there is a payback. It's just a kickback system. So that you pay 200 and get 100 bucks. It's a kickback system. It's just corruption. But I want to say this in terms of what is happening with counties. Now, when we began, and all of us, before we set up a committee in which Senator Boni Halwale was chairing, called PAC, where Senator Wamatangi sits, we summoned these governors, and I have no time for them. We summoned these governors to come and answer questions with regard to some of these audit queries that started appearing. They went to court and said the Senate has no role under Article 226
to summon them.
To summon them because they are supposed to be answerable to the county assembly. The court ruled that there is a concurrent jurisdiction in terms of checking whether we can audit them. And the person who filed that case is a court clerk of a famous lawyer representing a famous governor who has paid him 1 billion shillings. Number two, when we summon another governor...
Thank God you didn't name names.
No, I didn't, and I will not, because he's my colleague. Number two, when we summoned yet another governor, they went to court and they said under Article 225, you cannot summon a governor because he's equivalent to a head of state, under Article 6 of the Constitution. The court said, forget about it. Now that the auditor has issued a report, they are now saying there's an animal called IFMIS that is walking around the office at night. When they leave the office, it walks around at 3 a.m. goes passwords, it wires money, and that person, that ghost, it's living in counties, and some of it is in Nairobi. Let me tell you, we have to hang somebody.
And somebody here, county head?
These people must be responsible. This is a tragedy. You know, when people talk about 51 million so casually at a press conference, 51 million, and if Wamatangi is famous because of giving water tanks. Ask how many water tanks those 51 will give to the county of Kiambu. How many boreholes you will do in Makueni? What are you talking about?
I can do 3 national rounds.
So 3 national rounds.
You become Wamatangi.
Can you imagine? You know. So we cannot excuse these issues, because the auditor, and Senator Halwale is here, is famous for saying governor must go, those things. But when the auditor, the Kenyans understand the audit process, by the time the report is issued, there is an exit report. It means nobody answered the question or somebody ignored, because the auditor didn't sit somewhere in an office. We have cases where auditors have gone to sit in counties and nobody bothers to respond.
This is quite a thorny issue, and before we take a commercial break, although we will still come back to this, because we need to look at the issue of the NYS money, and the reason why the Parliamentary Accounts Committee cannot invite Senator I need to give Madam a chance.
But before we go to that, I think even as politicians we must be honest, as Wamatangi said. And for me now, I find Parliament being one of the barriers of us not taking anyone to be jailed in this court, and especially the National Assembly. Because first of all, if you ask the National Assembly today, even if you're coming to that NYS, for example, what would be the recommendation? After you've done all that saga,
this investigation.
all this, and yet these things had already gone to court. The courts were now following process to see if we can even jail one. We need to ask ourselves, are we the barrier of fighting this corruption?
Are we politicizing
Have we
the
used
fight
our
against
committees to get the kickbacks to play a game and do a PR to Kenyans, thinking now we are now solving corruption?
Have you?
Those are questions I would wish to ask the
now that
committee.
you sit there.
And I think we have.
You sit
I'm
in
sorry to
committees.
say that, because
Finance committee.
this is one thing I would say, me as a Lachi. If I would want to solve a problem, then let me solve the problem. But if I want to play with the problem, then I'll do those committee things we are doing in Parliament. If you ask me today, even if Engineer Ngumbo was here, I would ask him for sure. You've now finished. What is your recommendation? You've come in, you've even brought in now other banks. You've made these banks are now, people are now feeling threatened, and these banks are going to collapse. They want to lay off workers. Therefore, we are not also doing it in the right way, and we are not solving the problem to bring back all that we are crying that you took.
It would be interesting.
That is one. Number two, when the president comes out and says, in an honest way, because the other thing politicians like, we like lying. So now when you have a president like Uhuru Kenyatta who doesn't know how to lie but will say as it is in an honest way,